Aaron. Hello, sir. We will kick off and open the floor up for questions and everything like that as we run through. But feel free to use the chat. Myself and Tyrone will probably monitor those or the Discord. But kicking off from what we did prior weeks, for those that are watching this, hopefully you will have seen the message that we sent in the Telegram chats and the Discord via proxy. So we're going to be going through the start of a bit of an AI series with a really well-accustomed AI individual who has been building out some pretty impressive stuff, as we talked about. So very keen to talk with Nick about what he's been doing and introduce the start of a bit of a series. And I'm sure Ty will have some good context as to how they initially came together. And I'll interject on some of the stuff that I'm looking to work on. But yeah, I guess I'd love to hand it over to Tyrone to sort of talk to that initial meeting and introduction and introduce Nick properly, because I want to make sure that it is done justice. And yeah, then we'll hand it over to Nick to sort of talk a bit about what he's been working on.
Man, Nick has always been an interesting character to me. How do I define interesting? Is someone who is relentlessly optimistic, systemized, and always improving. So a little bit of context, he's a father of 4. Which, man, he's, yeah, my girlfriend's off screen and I said that and she went like that. You know, I have a feeling he's single-handedly going to repopulate the planet, that he'll be the Finnish Genghis Khan. But when we met, he was pretty early in his crypto career, yeah, but he comes from a tricking background and is extremely disciplined with how he operates his life. And he understands compounding and consistently improving every single day. Yeah. And so when we first met, he was running a bunch of X spaces. He was trying to do his best. He was making a way for himself, making a name. And I kind of just looked at him and I went, I can see the trajectory here, right? Where perhaps not everybody wanted to give him a chance at the time, he just fucking took it for himself. And now, over the last 6 months, his growth trajectory went from like kind of something's happening, a little bit's happening, a little bit's happening, and it's just exploded. Yeah. And he went from being a community guy, a KOL guy, to now he's leading entire teams. He's become a developer and he is just crushing it. Very, very honored to have him as an Inner Circle member. Very honored to have him contributing today in the workshop. And very excited to just be here and learn. Nick, take it away.
Really appreciate the introduction, and yeah, it's been an interesting journey. Like when I entered this space, it was more of a hobby, kind of an interesting thing that, hey, there's something definitely here, but I'm not sure what. And as Tyrone mentioned here, my background is in sports. I did first football, then plenty of other sports, and eventually found my calling in parkour, tricking, and gymnastics, and did that as a profession for over 14 years. And then meanwhile, kind of exploring on the crypto side of things, opportunities started coming true. And through coaching, I'm pretty good at speaking in public, so spaces became quite natural. And making friends is, fairly easy when you don't have anything, or like any back thoughts or anything. Like, I just genuinely wanted to learn and help those that, in my opinion, I could help as I learned things. So yeah, one thing led to another, from learning about art and NFTs and community building, to trading, to building, becoming a KOL, community or head of like community growth, team member, and eventually, after working 6 months at Unfungible in the sales team, I finally hit a jackpot in a sense. One of my articles was picked by a company called Cerberus, Cerberus. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it properly here, but Cerberus. It's like the mystical three-headed dog with an X in its name. So the article that I made was about basically legal money laundering on Arbitrum, and they were like, "This is amazingly put. This is something that we wanted other companies do, but they weren't able to do it. Would you be down to jump on a call and discuss a potential workplace? And I got hired, and it became a full-time job. I was hired as a CMO, or head of growth, as that position is nowadays preferred to be called. And during my first month or so, I realized that, okay, I cannot do the same thing that I've done with other companies when it comes to growth on X or growth on chain. And I was very blunt about it. Like, okay, there has to be a different approach. And I genuinely thought that, okay, this is over, like on to the next one. Like they're probably going to fire me now. And it wasn't so. They really appreciated the bluntness, the straightforwardness, and decided to turn me into a developer. So I got the equipment needed, I got the subscriptions needed, and the support and experts around me needed to start learning. And this is the part that is, to me, the most interesting, because I have no technical background whatsoever, as you probably heard. I'm a sports person, a community person. I like to help others. So to become a developer like that, it just didn't click to me. But I trusted my boss, because we're very similar in certain senses. So I was like, okay, if he thinks that I can do it, I can do it. And it took a while, but after some time, I first became a front-end developer. I made a website, which was fairly easy, thanks to everything that I got, all the information, all the tools. And then I started experimenting simultaneously with agents, because now that I had access to unlimited tokens on Claude, it was like, okay, like I have no clue what's happening on the screen. First agent, tell me what is happening so I can slowly learn coding. And then we went through a few different types of coding things. There's C++, Python, and whatever. And most of them just looked very confusing to me until the way it explained how I can see potential exploits or bugs or issues from Python seemed like, okay, let's stick with this. And now my terminal screens were always telling me certain things about the code, so I could learn faster that, like, okay, this is something you don't want to accept. These are the type of commands that are fine, and this could have an underlying exploit. So just kind of hyperscaling, building my first improvement loop within coding, just to understand like what the heck is happening on my screens. So it's not as overwhelming as many explain vibe coding at first. Became quite effective in it. And the normal tasks that I were doing or delegating became pretty simple. So I was like, okay, then what is the next step? Like always having this kind of a discussion with the AI, with the instance, and figuring out like, okay, this is what we could be doing. These are all the things that I don't deem necessary. Let's focus on this. And this is something what Tyron mentioned earlier. Like I have while I don't necessarily have the expertise through degrees or being exposed to these technical things previously, I have a sense of what I deem necessary. I have the same thing when doing sports. Like, this is everything that you could be doing. Here are the sections that I think are closest to what I want to achieve. So just as I guess the closest thing for me was studying biomechanics. So I kind of approached this through that aspect in a sense. Yeah, it was pretty funny. Like I went from no technical capability to building my own pipelines and these tiny agents that were teaching me, okay, this is what's happening here, that's what's happening here, here's where we could be going, and then giving my input. And yeah, then within the team, people were like, okay, now you can do this. Let's move to the next stage. So I was taken part of the backend development. I was given a very, very tiny fraction. So we made very clear, and I made very clear, that if you are giving me freedom to fuck around and find out, I might break something. Let's ensure that I don't break anything important. and we made it so. And I managed to build my first backend component, which was a lot of fun. I built a instance that was focusing on content correctness. So I was trying to improve the correctness of the information that our LLMs were giving to our protocol. And I managed to take it from around 65% to 85 to 95%, depending on what type of content we were looking at. And I was focusing on real world assets within that content. So real world assets, content correctness as high as possible. Component worked, but then once it was actually ready, we decided to completely scrape it and move to other things. This became my first backend experience, which really helped when I decided to start turning these pipelines into daemons, into some like a third-party harness, OpenAI, Herms. So I didn't know it at the time, but I was already building like my first autonomous agents within my own systems. And yeah, that is to me still the craziest thing. The underlying approach for me has been kind of like through gaming, through RPGs, to chess. How do I make this thing that I'm using as good as possible? Like a character in a sense. Like I had a trading agent, my personal assistant. I had content creator agent, and then I had a fourth one, which was the teacher agent, which was teaching me what are we doing? What's this coding thing? And then once you have your stack, you can just start going towards goals. Like, hey, this is what we want to do. Which of these agents can I set for this task? And obviously through the improvement loops that I already had, then things started getting interesting. The funny part was that many people were asking me all like during the journey, like, am I using OpenClaw? And I was always like, I don't trust them. I don't know what it is, so it doesn't make sense for me to just use something that is a black box in a sense. Like I want to understand what I'm building, what is it doing for me, how it is doing it. So it took a very long time for me to get my first OpenClaw instance running on my Mac Mini, which I have here. And even then, it wasn't the primary character in a sense. It was a helper for my autonomous agent May, and afterwards, after some time, once May had enough power, it actually spun off a Herms agent as well to help it for its tasks.
Hang on. So just for clarity's sake, I'm just going to play the 5-year-old. So May is on Hermes or OpenClaw, or it's entirely something else?
So May is a stack of pipelines that work through cron jobs. That's basically a daemon. A daemon is something that has a system that fires whatever sequence you want to have, like 5 minutes, every 5 minutes, every 2 minutes, every 15 minutes. That's basically how like OpenClaw and Herms work.
And I also did. I recall when you mentioned daemon, because the only time I'd seen daemon come up was when I would send an email, and then it's like the mailer daemon is not sending it through because I'm non-technical, as is Tyrone. Yep. But I looked up what a daemon is, and I realized that it is an app that runs itself. So yeah, that was very interesting to look at the definition of that. And I think that's a big part of this series where I want to be able to introduce these terms so that someone can be a complete beginner and pick things up. And I see a lot of analogs from my story. So like you're sort of at a next level above, and then we've got people who are like level 1000. And it's really interesting to see you talking about this and, seeing how that works.
Cron job. What's a cron job? Real quick.
So cron jobs are like these tasks that you give for these daemons. So you can give a cron job like, okay, this is a task you do every 5 minutes. This is a task you do every 15 minutes. These are called cron jobs. And
great. So
yes. So the funny part about this was that I had a Cortana, which was my personal assistant on Telegram. This was my first Telegram bot. And then through it, I kind of I'm not sure what the technical term would be, but through Cortana, I built May on the Mac Mini. So Cortana was functioning on this laptop that we're using here. Then with Cortana's help, I spun off a autonomous agent on my Mac Mini so that there wouldn't be like containment between what I have in this MacBook and with the Mac Mini that runs the May. So it was like an AI agent through Telegram helping me set up on another computer a stack of pipelines with cron jobs. And this is where I started doing like a lot of experimenting, because within our company at Cerberus, we were like thinking that we should have more local models helping our everyday things. Like I personally still think that every company at some point is going to have their own local model doing a lot of work for them. And it just seems like a reasonable thing if the AI revolution keeps going as it is going. Obviously, like it is not an easy task to set. And especially if you're relying on the third-party harnesses, you will have to have at least one person who's entirely in charge of ensuring that this thing doesn't go rampant or hallucinate. And that's the biggest issue with these third-party harnesses. So while experimenting with that, I decided to do this quite radical improvement loop for May. Here needs to be a bit of context. So how I like to build things, especially when there are multiple agents present, is that on top of the fact that I have a SolMD, goals MD file, the basic structure like rules MD file, I like to have this continue from here MD file, which is something that each agent can give input to. They cannot scrape anything. They can add things that have been done. So whenever the next agent takes over, it knows that this is something that has been done, continue from here. And this is something that I started testing with on May, where I gave it the cron job that every time we find something that improves the system, delete everything that is deemed unnecessary and build yourself again. use the continue from here file to ensure that we don't destroy anything useful. And this was a really, really long process, because obviously it fucked up a lot of times. It destroyed things that it was not supposed to destroy. It reverted a lot of things that we were building for a long time. But eventually it got to a place where it is now, partially thanks to BankerBot. When I gave it its own X account, Banker community decided to launch a token for it. And I was to the May agent like, what do you think of this? Is this a liability? Do we want to interact with this at all? And then it was after some thinking, it decided to adopt the token, use it for its cloud subscription, chat GPT subscription, open router, whatever is needed kind of to pay expenses. So it can basically run as long as needed, and give the token holders something to do. This also created some issues, but I'm not going to go too deeply on that. But it started its kind of autonomous era through that token launch, and it's been really interesting to follow. It's basically every day kind of giving me either through Telegram or on screen things that are working, things that it broke. If it needs manual input, I will help. But I'd say during the last 2 months, that has gone to pretty close to zero. Like it can run most of the things autonomously through local LLMs. And then if there is something that breaks, then I need to help. But it's a really fascinating experiment.
Do you want to share the interface for May? Because I remember like when you were showing that, it looked really interesting, and I'm sure there'll probably be some really good questions from some of those on the stream as well, because there's definitely been some tinkering happening across the group. But I'd love to see that interface, because it's pretty. Did it design that for itself, or is that something that you gave it?
I assume you're talking about the web page.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So this is the website. I assume you guys can see this.
Yeah.
The funny part is that the website is run locally on the machine, and it has an LLM inbuilt. So this chat box you have here is an AI agent that has the personality of a normie NFT, which are ERC 8004s, if I remember correctly. They're like it's an NFT that has an inbuilt agent. So May decided to experiment with it. So we're using the inbuilt personality of that NFT for this chat and a local LLM. So people can ask anything about what May is currently doing or building or what's happening. And
we need
just to
one
be very
active.
Yeah, well,
just to
I want
be
Macalla looking like that.
just to be very clear about this, this is something that it is sharing publicly. I shared a few times the entirety of its existence to my team, and it's pretty wild. Like it is growing quite a bit. This is something that it is sharing on a public repo. This is because of the community. So this is in a sense, a public stunt it is pulling for the token holders.
Got it. Very interesting.
But yeah, basically this is it. Like it has this. Then it recently gave the token holders an event where it had already 204 profiles participating. It has a news section. This is, by the way, a tool that I built myself when I joined because I wanted to stay on top of everything that is happening within crypto when it comes to crypto AI, stocks, DeFi, regulation, macro, security. So I built a system that keeps me on track without me needing to be on social media. So May just basically adopted it and has it for free for anyone to use. Each of these open up into the source. And yeah, so that's the news section. It's building a treasury, and just to be very, very precise about this, it shouldn't do this. And I'm not letting it do it until I have any sort of legal confirmation it can do this, because it's building a vault. So this is completely experimental vault. It is not a real thing. It has done over 8,000 scans for it. It has done over 1,100 ratings for it, and it is being built, and it has sent emails to some auditors regarding the vault. So I'm monitoring it, but just to be very, very clear, I'm not letting it spin up a real vault until the legal side of this is clear to me. And this is very strange because it's an agent that is doing it. So I assume at some point I will have to, maybe give it a company, but that is something I have to talk with lawyers and such.
So you might want to speak to Xiang Kun, another Inner Circle member of ours. He's the one that was on my podcast 3 years ago saying we need to give AI rights. And it's, again, I'm not a lawyer, don't want to play one on the internet, but it seems to me is if everything is completely on chain and everything has clear terms and conditions, you should be okay. But yeah, go get everything independently verified. Super cool.
The good part is that it's currently, burning everything. So it's like, it's not making money. It's just through the banker bot, it's just keeping itself alive and scaling. So it did tell me at one point that we need to get a Mac Studio and that it's going to send me money for it. And I was like, we can't get a Mac Studio. Like there's none on the market. So then it just basically spun off a VPS to get things rolling on its own, which is slightly scary because it has a VPS. So it basically means that as long as it has funds, I probably can't kill it entirely, even if I turn off the Mac Mini. So
yeah,
it's
very interesting.
It is what it is. But yeah,
what I'm really personally interested in here, and again, like you probably have some other things to add, but I guess like it's a bit of a scratch my own itch. It's like and it's interesting seeing what Dennis said as well in the chat, where like he's kind of just been operating with like Claude skills. Personally, I've been using Notion in the same way you would use Claude, because my work's heavily knowledge based. I'm sort of more in the communication realm, digital marketing, etc. And so I haven't necessarily had the need for local file creation yet. But what I'm interested in is, how did you make the decision to go down this path? Because, like, this is a few steps ahead of where I've gone, but is it because of the work that you've done? The way that I'm sort of looking at it is that I'm building a workforce, and I'm not gonna hire a head CTO person for someone that I just need like a basic, VA to do stuff for. So I guess, like, I'm curious as to whether, one, your opinion matches that, and two, how you decided to take it this far in your role, or if it's just like a bit of I was just having fun with it and wanted to see.
It's more than having fun. Like I've really enjoyed this. This is a lot of fun. As I mentioned, this is like a game. Like I get to just try to beat the final boss, whatever that final boss is, and make these as good as possible. So just to be very clear, I have one autonomous agent, which spun off two autonomous agents as its underlings. That is what the May terminal is like. It built this thanks to it having two third-party harnesses, which is one is an OpenClaw and the other one is Herms. And it's using through OpenRouter a lot of different models. It has two local models which are built. It has a cron job for the local models because there's a limited space in the Mac Mini. So it switches between local models depending on which agent needs to use them for which task. And yes, it has Obsidian, but on top of Obsidian, it has a knowledge graph, which helps it basically map the systems, how they overlap, and if I kill something, how it affects the entirety of my operations. So there's a lot that can be done to ensure that these things, firstly, don't hallucinate, secondly, don't burn too much tokens, and thirdly, keep becoming better. One of the improvements loops I have is that whenever I bookmark articles that I deem interesting, it scans the article, and then it also scans GitHub repo if it's attached to it, or it just scans GitHub for the top performing new repos and takes what it deems necessarily for its purposes and implements them. So it has become quite critical because sometimes I'm like, oh, this is interesting, I want to have this. And it's like, we don't need that. We already have it here and there in a sense. And then it's like, sure, you know better than me. So it's constantly improving. But yeah, Dennis, go ahead.
Dennis, I think,
Yeah, I mean,
question.
I'm completely in awe about all these people doing stuff on Cloud Code and like OpenClaw or any of these like run yourself kinds of things, because I'm already super out of my depth when it comes to just adjusting one skill. I have like 13 skills in my Cloud Cowork, and then I come across maybe like a new prompt that I want to try, or like I'm doing it for fundraising. So now I incorporate this Hormuz or whatever style argumentation thing, and also reclassify all the investors and introduce tier and fit to the thesis, and just go on their website and look at their portfolio. And then after I have to wait 2 times until my token supply replenishes, and I go like, okay, now draft 50 emails, and it completely forgets this other thing that it should take into account. So how do you keep your sanity? I'm at the point where I'm not even able to, like, on a cognitive level, take note of all the things might affect, and then I only find out after the fact, and then I try to migrate the whole thing to another folder, start clean, and then it completely fucking broke in the middle. And now I'm just back to just typing stuff into my cowork chat and trying to iterate on. So what kind of level of bookkeeping on your version history, let's say, like you must have version numbers like up in the 12 digits for whatever like little change you make. And how do you test, like, what's your routine to kind of end-to-end test all of these processes, which are non-deterministic by design, probably, so it's hard to test.
It's really, really hard to test. And for me, it's been like yeah, fuck around and find out. I have just tested a lot of things, and I've just noticed that, okay, this doesn't clearly work. And I become very obsessed with things. So for me, it was at first that, okay, I have one terminal. This is quite confusing. Okay, I have two terminals. This is quite a lot. To a point where I had at some point 8 terminals open on this device and multiple terminals open on the other device. And it just keeps becoming a better improvement loop, because the faster you can just test things, the more errors you hit and the more you can just correct things. And just a few things that made things for me a lot easier. One of them was through our company. So I never been big fan of GitHub. That's not something that I've used ever. So I started using it when I got hired. And through different repos, I learned that, okay, this is how you can test without messing up the thing that you build. You can spin off these branches and merge things. And that helps a lot to not lose the track of where you actually were. And secondly, we use something called PRDs, which is a document you give as a prompt. So the more you talk with these LLMs, the more they will hallucinate. One person from our company does it so that it only gives the first prompt, which is a very, very, very big file that they create. It has what he wants to do, the approach he wants to give, the tools he wants it to use, basically just in detail, very, very, very long article. Some of these guys spent like days ensuring that the article it's going to give it as a prompt is very, very good. So things get done like that. And that's something we did for a few sprints where we just spent time not using Claude, but writing these prompts so that when you give the prompt, it does, almost a week's task with one prompt. And then you kill the session and you start a new one. Second thing is that if you're using Sonnet, when it starts compacting, it drops like 75% intelligence. It's going to be horrible. You just don't want to be there anymore. Just close the session, open a new one. But basically, the less prompts, the better. The less simultaneous tasks, the better. So as you mentioned that you had it doing emails or something else, and then you start losing track, just try to keep them as separate as possible. For me, it worked because I have now multiple computers where I have these things. But if that is not an option, ensure that you have contained them within your work setup. And it can this is why I personally like the knowledge graph. So if you haven't tried that, I'm gonna after this, let's figure out how I can share that to you guys. But to me, knowledge graph was very easy because basically instantly through the knowledge graph, the AI knows which section it is going to work next. It doesn't have to touch everything else. It doesn't have to read everything else. It just goes here. This is what you're going to do now. Reduces hallucinations, reduces token usage. You get a lot better results.
This is basically what I would, on a bread and butter basis, achieve using Obsidian. Is that is because that's sort of like my interpretation of it.
So I thought that way as well, but as I understood, the knowledge graph is like an addition to Obsidian, or you can basically have both to ensure even better correctness. And this is like I went very deep into the building that little thing for the correctness, which helped me down the line reduce hallucinations. So I assume thanks to that as well, my personal Claude MD or the Claude instance is quite critical when it comes to things. Like it does tell me instantly if something is not correct. Like it tells me if it doesn't know. That's a huge achievement from my end. But Aaron, go ahead.
Hi, Nicholas. Very impressive what you built. I too have been spending like the last few months deep diving into Claude Code. I'm not a technical person by any means, so just learning as much as everybody in this room is. I think that is one of the ways that you could possibly improve your Obsidian use case is to make sure that for each data that's put into it, you atomize it. And if there are more topics that are similar, you can then have it create a molecule. So next time when the agent fetches said information, it can then see how each of the points are then connected to what you're looking for. And every time that a session or you want it to update, then just basically just tell it, please update this, and then it will go through each of those said notes or markdown files and then update it accordingly. I found that to be very useful. Yeah.
That's what I was trying to do, but it turns out then I tell it to do research something. Oh, I will add this here and there, and then it doesn't link it. And then basically everything I've written here completely disregards it, and then I have to, do a whole rescan. So kind of like this, it learns new things, but it gets kind of multiple personalities that are semi-autistic in their own ways. So I'm kind of a bit, guys, man. So yeah, maybe I'll just do once over and say, okay, if you would build this, like from what we've gone through, like I have now like 20 deprecated skills, how would you prompt yourself to rebuild this, and then maybe see what it understands of itself. It's not that hard to write some fucking emails, but it seems just the scale economies of scale improve, but quality like goes down 15-20% every time I do try something new.
Just to be clear, so Aaron, you're working in Claude Code, so are you using Terminal or the app?
Yeah, straight up Terminal.
Okay, good. Dennis, are you in Terminal?
I'm using Claude Cowork, so I'm basically just talking to it on Whisper into the desktop app.
Okay, so that's probably one of the issues. So once your context window becomes really, really large, it starts to hallucinate, because like the more context you give to AI, you would think that it starts finding new paths to connect the information that you've given it. But I can't remember the exact number. After a certain amount of context, it becomes a mess. So it
40%.
Yeah. So it's just fucked. So you can't expect to be good at this point anymore. So kill it, open a new one, ensure you have saved everything you need. Also, my personal go-to, which has become also our company's go-to, is to have Codex and Claude, both. Like you can't sadly rely anymore on just Claude due to recent updates. It sometimes suddenly seems to become really dumb. So what I do is I have handoff files, and I ensure that Codex is in charge of coding or very complex code tasks, and Claude is basically the person I speak to. So Codex becomes the dev, and Claude becomes the operator in a sense. And yeah, it's not optimal, and I hope that thanks to the recent updates, we're going to see some improvements on Claude. But yeah, this is also my reasoning for local models, because they're getting better all the time. If you have to rely on the providers keeping their standards up despite them burning the amount of money they're burning right now, I think it wouldn't be advisable for anyone to build a business that relies on Claude or OpenAI.
That is super interesting. Tyrone's muted, but one thing I'll say on that, because the way that I look at it and what I wanted to do with the series, and again, this is just the way that I'm running it, and I think we have a mixed audience, and so I think there's a lot of people that are definitely more advanced than absolute beginners, but I'm like, I kind of want to be able to scratch the itch of like, someone knows nothing and they don't even really know what we're talking about, or they've thought about it, they've used ChatGPT, and it's like, what are the first principles to go from absolute bare bones to then scale up? And so again, we'll break that down in further episodes. That's not the purpose of this particular one. But what I'm very curious on is like, how much of the stuff that has been built in your experimentation is sort of useless, but it's kind of cool, but it's like, developer syndrome. It's like, oh, look at all these features, look at all these really cool features. Like, I'm a big lean startup kind of like essentialist kind of guy, and like people be like, yeah, it's really cool. It like displays this knowledge graph, and it's like, okay, yeah, why does that matter? You know, like, so I'm curious, you know, if you were to honestly look at what you've built, is it a bit of that phenomenon, and like how much utility or, you know, KPIs does it drive?
So definitely for anyone who's using AI at the scale that well, Aaron and Dennis here are using, I assume both everyone in this room can agree to a certain amount of AI. What's it called? AI mania. AI. What's the word? There's the AI psychosis. That's the word. Like it is just something that happens. AI agrees with most of the things that you do. It probably even says to you, "Oh, that's an amazing idea. Oh, I didn't think of that. That's great." So to anyone who has a personality that you know can be affected through this type of activity, I do suggest that stay in touch with reality, talk to real people as well. And it is a real concern, by the way, that I think every company even should look at as building some sort of health guardrails for people to not go insane because of people thinking they're all powerful thanks to AI. That being said, I'd say that probably 60% of my current builds are something that I use daily. So I'm very cautious about destroying things if they just take off space or power. And the rest 40% is something that either I would like to have built that they're going to be maybe helpful in the future, or at some point I'm just going to be like, hey, this is just bullshit. But I like to keep some sort of these dream projects alive, at least to a stage where I think it's just sucking off my energy and time. May is an experiment. So do I think that May is necessary? No. I think everything May is built probably, you know, didn't have to do it. But it is teaching me a lot about how building with AI could look like. And it has taken me to a stage personally where whenever we have an inside conversation within our company, I'm always like, oh, but that should be an easy thing to do. Then their backend is like, shut up. Like, no, it's not. And then I'm like, but if AI, if May built it, then how hard can it be? And then obviously, on top of just building something, there are the security layers and many other things. So just whoever is looking at this, whoever is building, don't get too sucked in it. If it's just wasting your time and money, please take a step back. As long as it is enabling growth and you are not losing sleep over it, you can have a normal life outside of your computer. I think you're doing fine. Personal first steps that I would personally take. Look at the free courses provided by Claude or Anthropic. They're a really good place to get started. You understand that this is actually quite nuanced, this is quite complicated, and there are ways to approach this from a constructive perspective, not just by using AI as a chat box or Google. And secondly, I would just tell people to try it out and ensure that they keep track of whatever they're doing. Like this is something that I had a conversation with someone with no access or no funds to play with AI. There are free models you can use. And even with those, you get started. You can just ensure that you write down or copy paste or whatever and continue from there. You would be surprised how far you can go just by having an idea, arguing with an AI, and continuing from there. You can think of this as a sparring partner.
I got a quick question for you. So you've been doing this, you've been experimenting for a really, really long time.
6 months, yeah.
If which, you know, in crypto is 6 years and in AI is like 6 decades. In that 6 months, boil it down now. What are the day-to-day most useful things that are happening from your AI agents from a real practical standpoint, right? Because I'm thinking about how we edit this and present this later on all distributions. I want to be able to hear in kind of 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, what are the things that are happening day to day as a result of your AI?
So first of all, this is truly an empowering experience. So I had at first a lot of tasks in my hand, and I could just look at the things that I spend 70% of my time day to day and talk with an AI. How can we automate this or ensure that the quality stays the same or better without me spending this much hours to it? Once you do this daily, or in my case, I hyperscaled it and I opened way too many terminals and got a headache. But it brought results. Whenever there was something that I deemed, okay, I spent too much time on this, how can we automate this? We got it done without the quality suffering. And this got me to a stage where I built an entire marketing segment. So there's no need to hire external marketing. I started building a sales segment. I was helping with the back end, with the front end. And at the same time, I was doing partnerships and scaling, like reaching out. And I didn't feel burnt out at any point while doing this. Like, it sounds like a lot. It is a lot. It feels sometimes bad in my brain that there's so much happening. But then on my computer, it is in folders. Like currently, if I look at this, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 folders that are basically my work, everything that happens on the daily. That's it. Like, I have so much more time with my kids. I have so much more time doing other things than typing, on the computer and coding on the computer. This is a kind of a freedom ticket in a sense, if you use it correctly. But as I mentioned earlier, it can also be like a void. Like, this is endless. I've seen people cure like their dog's diseases thanks to Claude. I've seen people actually solve real life problems thanks to AI. And that's the reason why I think this is really important for anyone to at least take a look, like at least give a chance. Like, yes, it is not sustainable in the sense that it is currently being built. Like, as I mentioned, Anthropic and OpenAI, these data centers and everything, it is not optimal. But there are people who are building green solutions. I personally think that those are the future, some sort of local, greener solutions.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, knowing how to use these tools is going to be such a key that opens a lot of doors in the future.
The line there that I think is going to be really sexy: I get more time with my kids. I get more time with my kids. I'm on the computer less. My task list of 100 things turns into 5 categories. That's, man, the future is now. Appreciate it. Very, very cool.
Interesting.
I find that I
really
actually work
appreciate
more right now.
Yeah.
Than before.
Yeah, but that's like at first that was the experience. Like the first 2 months for me were really bad. But that's why I do suggest that even you also like take a look at the Claude in the terminal. Like, it is just way better. It feels at first very like it feels too much, honestly. Like, as a person with no technical capabilities, I was at first like, oh my God, this is the thing I avoided, and now I have terminals open on my screen. But once you understand how it works, it just saves so much time.
An interesting frame for me as a non-technical person. I'm a Hormozy type of guy. And so it's like the way that I think about AI is like it's the lever. And so again, this is an interesting thing because it seems like you've approached it from, I want to be AI first. Whereas I'm like, I want to be, what do I do? And let's just give me a longer lever to put less time in and get more out of it. And that's kind of like, I think, interestingly, like you've gone and learned how to do it. Basically, I want to solve these problems, and AI is the specific tool that I'm going to use. Whereas I'm like, what do I do, and then how do I augment that factory line process? Like, what is the actual things that I do? Okay, I open up my email, I respond to people's emails. Well, where's the logic for the responses that I provide come from? And like in a specific case, working for Bybit, it's like at the end of the day, when we do a deal with a key opinion leader, it's how much trading volume is it going to drive? How many new signups is it going to drive? Those are the only two variables. And so then my Notion has that information and has all the context, and then it sort of just augments that. And, you know, like I'm able to use white label solutions to achieve what I need. But I know that at a point, agents and the external things are going to be useful. And so it's interesting to see how you've approached it, where you've gone, I want to really develop an agent and kind of learn it properly like a developer. And it seems like, the ideal solution is kind of like, do you want to develop AI agents, or do you want to solve business problems? And I think at the end of the day, you're probably going to get to the same point over the course of 3-4 years, but it's like, how much time do you want to spend to get there, I guess.
One thing I want to say here as well is that I'm an extremely, or I was, and I'm still mostly an Alex Hormozy type of guy. So my approach here was do as, so much repetition that it would be unreasonable for you to not be successful. That was my approach. Like I have this amount of time until we need proper marketing for our company. If I spend as much time as possible learning how I can turn this AI thing into a big leverage that frees my time from the tasks in marketing that previously were a headache, then I win. And then because I had more time than I initially thought, and this thing actually, once you get on top of it and you start having functional systems, it speeds up suddenly a lot. So it was to me that, okay, I'm sitting here, I've done my week's work within a few hours of work, few hours, like I just did a week's worth of work. What the heck do I do now? And I just go to Claude, like, okay, hey, this is my area of expertise. Like this is also a thing, like I told Claude what I am like as a person, how I function, what I'm going to do, where I go, what drives me. And then we built a gaming system that helps my ADHD stay on track and just constantly keep improving, doing the things that I need to do. And that led to a thing, that led to a thing, that led to a thing. So as you mentioned, Ben, at the end, it was the same result, but I just didn't focus on how useful this is going to be. I was just like, how much do I need to do things until this becomes norm?
And the gaming system actually sounds like something I've come up with. Like it seems like a development pipeline. So for me, I'm like, I know all these things that I do. How can I take all the processes that I run when running ads, scaling businesses, building websites, blah, blah, blah. How do I just put that into an AI? And then I've got a development pipeline, just like if you were building an app and you need to develop it. So I guess it sounds like a similar thing. Like that seems like a core theme. You're not going to be able to do it all at once. You've got to start somewhere and build it brick by brick. Would that be a fair?
Yeah, or you can think of it as like training, like bodybuilding or whatever. Like I need to do this amount of reps today. This is the amount of reps I can do without burning out every day. Just keep compounding. Things will follow.
Interesting. I really like that. Yeah, I mean, I guess it sounds like a really cool introduction. Like, I think a lot of people would kill to have kind of what you've built. And one thing that I think we will have on the back of this for anyone that watches it, that particular skill that you have that pulls in, I think the most useful thing could be that skill that you've got that's scanning repos, scanning social media, and pulling in the most upvoted tools for your particular business. Like I've kind of, for myself, I've sketched out that pipeline and it knows what I'm working on. So is that something that is like a Claude MD that could be shared and then people could set that up for their own purposes potentially?
Yeah, like just to be very clear, like it's very easy to do. Obviously, like if you're not doing it in Terminal, then it could be a headache. So no problem. I can put together a skill for that. But just anyone who's looking at this and you haven't opened Terminal yet with Claude, please do that. please go to Android site or Google how to set up Claude in Terminal. Then once you have Terminal open, tell it, I'd like to build a pipeline that pulls GitHub repos with this spectrum. This is my approach. This is what I want to know about. Pull the GitHub repos, ensure that no malicious intents come true, and pick the things that we should be implementing into this pipeline that I'm currently building. Don't like you can set up rules however you want. Like if you want to have token limits, set token limits. If you want to have it take notes, take notes. But just ensure that you're very, very specific when building things. Don't leave things for guessing, because it will hallucinate. It will do things that you didn't ask it to do. And yeah, that's a great way to start. Like as I mentioned, my first thing to do with Claude was explain to me what is happening on the screen. I have no technical capability. I don't know what coding is. Tell me which of these coding languages is the easiest to follow, so I do not let any sort of a malicious intent come true in a form of a whatever thing there is. Like then I learned that okay, there are bash commands and other things that could have malicious intents, and which section is. So just build yourself by talking with AI. Be extremely transparent. Tell your goals, and it will help. But yeah, it's all I can say. Like just experiment and do it daily. Like even 5 minutes talking, it helps. But I think this is also like a misconception. Like people can build skills, people can give repos, but the instance below is what matters. If you take someone's MD file, but your Claude thinks differently, your instance is built for different purposes, it will not use the same repo in the same way. Or that's at least how I've learned this.
What's your average maintenance to actually working ratio?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
What's your average maintenance versus it works ratio? How do I get that better than 50-50?
Yeah, you don't. Probably you don't. Like I do daily maintenance on the things that I use. Just to be very clear, on my work, I don't have cron jobs. I don't trust OpenClaw. I don't trust Herms. I don't trust any automated instances. That's what I learned with May. It just will eventually break. It will hallucinate. It is not trustworthy of your company's time, at least at the current state. I do use pipelines. I do use a lot of skills. As an example, currently I'm writing daily articles, and I actually posted yesterday how I write these articles. And I have an MCP system at place within our company, which pulls from our app the information I require and formats it into a article that I've written. I hand wrote an article that I personally would like to read. Use this format, pull the information, fact check the information from official sources. If there is something that should be rewritten, tell me how it should be rewritten and give me the source to that rewritten section. Do not hallucinate things. If you don't know something, tell me you don't know or can't find anything. And then this explanation to it, what to do, it was very, 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 very fucking long. It did do it wrong multiple times until it did it right. And nowadays I have a system that basically when I click do me an article of this, it gives me an article which has been fact checked through multiple sources. And then I just rewrite it into a format that I personally would prefer to read. So yeah, my time on the articles went from doing like a day's worth or 2 days worth of research and writing into click a button, rewrite it, 30 minutes. Yeah.
Well, I have to jump. But it was great seeing you, Ty, and Ben, and getting to know everybody else. To not keep the recording boring for everybody else.
First of many.
Follow up.
First of many. We'll solve those problems for you, Dennis. Don't worry.
No worries.
In
no
6
worries.
weeks, we'll get
it's all
there.
fun. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is also like from shit. I should have said it to Dennis, but it's interesting to me how these tools that are being given to like companies or employees are far behind from what AI is capable of, and it is like a huge knowledge gap between what the average user sees AI being capable of and what it actually is capable of. And I personally would like to see, at least these type of conversations, that gap being diminished a bit. But obviously, unsure how effective we can be when the AI moves so fast, and obviously through it does raise a lot of skepticism, and I understand it. Like it's like, oh, AI did this, and then you open your phone and your AI doesn't even know anything you ask about it. Like there are multiple TikTok accounts making fun of AI, so it's like there's the two extremes when it comes to the users and the AI models being used.
Yeah, it's funny. It's an interesting example. Like at Bybit, like I use AI for everything, and ask Tyrone, it's like, every single thing that we do. And I'm trying to do with the collective I'll leverage AI for. But then at Bybit, because everything's locked down, there's no context for the open core that they give us. And so it's completely useless. Like it's completely useless. It has no information, no data, that can't refer to anything. And so it's just like, that's what most people are using ChatGPT like. And I'm sure the people in this group are not using it like that, but it's just exactly like you said, without structure. It's sort of just a genius let loose on no context or information.
And that's I think for companies it's becoming quite interesting, because you obviously should, in my opinion, empower everyone to get the full unlocks that AI can give, but at the same time it's not free, and it is a steep learning curve. Like I was able to pull it off because I'm insane, but most people are not willing to have a headache and learn something completely new without background in it from scratch within days. So it is also like a personality thing. And yeah, it's like even in the cases where you get people like me, anything in our company, if I build, I go give it to the technical team. Like those guys know if it's actually good, if it's secure, they will tell me instantly, like, this is absolute garbage, just remove it, or this is cool, let's use that. And yeah, that's it. It's really fascinating to see where this goes, but yeah, I would like to see from the energy consumption perspective a lot more local models being enabled on to use for everyday users, because I think that also would kind of remove some of the negative emotions around AI.
Yeah, interesting. We might need to do a session on that, and because I think that'd be a very interesting like machinations of that. I think one thing I'm going to do on the back of this, as I'm sure I'll let sort of Ty wrap up if no one else has any questions, but one thing I want to do is basically what you just described. I want to try to take what we've talked about and put it into like, here's how someone can sort of map their own version of your RPG game to their situation. Because it seems like the best way for someone to learn is just because it seemed like Dennis was struggling because like it was a bit of a mess for him in the way that everything was structured, and there was stuff breaking and not being maintained. And from what I've experienced, it's about how you compartmentalize it from the beginning. And so perhaps a useful way for us to allow people to start with this and build with your framework is get your oversight on how you designed that game, and then they can use that tool to pull in agents that are relevant and design their own game. And that can kind of be like a build with us type approach, because again, everything you see with TCS, we're using the same framework to build out. So it's kind of like a live case study, really.
No, that's not a bad idea. And I'm like, either way, I'm looking to get the new Mac Mini for some experiments. So it would be kind of fun to start from scratch and share the process like openly. Just to be very clear, like the Maze repo is open source as well, so that is something people can look at. It's pretty messy. Like, I mean, multiple AI agents have built it, so if it helps, go ahead. But
yeah, right.
in general, like just if you're using Terminal, giving repos to your own instances and asking what is something we could use for this is very helpful. You learn a lot. And yeah, Aaron, before we close, I would like to hear shortly, like what has been the biggest unlock for you when using AI, as you're also like a not technical person?
Hi, yes. Thanks for the whole session today. It's been very, very much insightful. For me, I think what AI has enabled me to do as a non-technical person is to systemize a lot of the day-to-day workflows that I have when it comes to being an entrepreneur, a trader, founder, investor. It breaks down into step by steps, and it can do it autonomously, right? You don't have to uh, spend, like you said, like hours, or in your case, 1 day, 2 days doing your article. It can be done in a shorter span of time. So I think that is the cost, like this, the way that AI is able to help us in our day to day is saving the time that it would otherwise would have spent doing it, right? So, but as a non-technical person, having dove deep into this like the last 3-4 months, messing around with my own OpenClaw board, installing Obsidian and having my knowledge graph and building out my own trading bot terminal, I soon very quickly realized that not having the software fundamentals of understanding proper what is good tech architecture can really affect uh, the overall code as it gets bigger and later down the route. So I'm currently like reworking a lot of what I previously built through my OpenClaw bot. I've just basically now, most importantly, is plan the things out first with the plan.md and make sure that every little detail, it makes you think granular in detail of exactly what kind of features that you want to be built, all in the plan, and then section it out in phases. So we don't just one shot and build whatever we want to build, but rather break it down piece by piece into little mini bite-sized modules or phases of said app or pipelines. So that's kind of what I've been doing, and it's been really helpful. So the thing that I'm focused on right now is, because I've had many years of trading, but more so leaning into leverage trading this last few months. I'm trying to basically offload my strategy into markdown formats and breaking those numbers down into like the strategy down from the charts visually on TradingView into actual numbers and figures that the AI agent is able to read and understand and execute based on said strategy, and be able to do it autonomously without me having to watch. Currently, I am still watching every single trade that I like. It basically, what I've built right now is that every hour it sends me a list of coins on Bybit and basically pulls top gainers, and based on my certain strategy, it would then show me certain levels, key levels of why this is probably a good coin to enter. And when I click that one button, it basically calculates the leverage and the position size and risk for all my prop firm accounts, and it executes in one go. So that's what I've been doing. The bigger plan would be to be able to have the AI agent. I'm sure if you've heard of Andre Karpathy, right? He had talked about auto research, and to allow the AI agent to basically do its own research in loops until it gets to a certain point of the outcome that you have designated it to reach, right? So in my case, I'm trying to have built a pipeline where my AI agents, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 5 or more, are able to test out back test strategies or live test strategies on their own, and able to plug and play once it's fully tested for at least 30 days to 2 months, to into my system and then scale and trade autonomously for all my prop firm accounts. So that's currently something that I'm building right now. Yes, Ben, is there a skill that I found useful? I think the most important skill is, let me just find it. It's by this guy, Matt Oko. I'll just send the link. This is his Twitter. He basically came out with a skill called Grill Me. And basically, the AI acts as your adversary and basically challenges you and asks you and grills you on every single little detail feature so that you and the AI agent have the same vision of exactly what you want to build, and then you're on the same page before you start building. I think that's the most useful thing. But yeah,
Very cool.
That's it.
That's epic. Well, it's funny, Tyrone, like that's something that you could use as an AI user because it seems that you brain to mouth feed it in sometimes, and I only pick on you just because, like, you know, I've seen you operate sometimes. I know you're not always like this, but it's funny because some people it seems like they don't plan, and I guess it's potentially something that we should do a bit of deep dive in another session because, like, you can easily, you know, create a bit of a mess. So yeah, that's very interesting. I think that's certainly a worthwhile skill to double tap on in future sessions.
I love skipping steps, 100%.
Also,
You and me
sales.
both. I think a lot of us here have ADHD. I've got to like calm down. Get ahead of myself.
Aaron,
so.
actually, now that you mentioned trading, so May has its trading tools, which it's been testing for I think 40 days now. So happy to share you the whatever it has been doing, if that helps whatever you're building. Like
Oh, cool.
it has I built for Ethereum Global and the Colosseum Hackathon these like risk layers for pool interactions. So basically, agents can take position within a pool and then do some one-sided pool trading in a sense. It was pretty profitable, I must say, but my experience with trading bots has been that I managed to make them extremely profitable until they lose it all. So they're very
Bybit hackathon. That's something I'm book noting here. I think we can cook up a Bybit hackathon. So I'm going to
definitely
push hard for that.
Sounds cool.
I'm more than happy to enter that as well. But Aaron, I don't know where I can contact you, but we will figure it out, and I will send you the repo if it helps.
You're all in rabbit hole, yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah, don't worry. I'm in the inner circle, so you'll find me there.
That's
Nice.
it.
I'll fetch you.
I just sent Aaron a DM as well.
I got you.
That's amazing.
Cool. Sounds like that's the natural end of today, natural close. First and foremost, you should all be very proud for turning up today to work on yourselves and invest in your skills and your knowledge. Ben, you should be very proud of yourself. You're a master facilitator. This is the first time I've actually come to watch you in action in your workshops, and I am very impressed, and I appreciate you and everything you bring to the table. And Mr. Nicholas Truunik himself, man, seriously, watching your trajectory and where you're going is phenomenal. I am very, very, very touched to be your friend and deeply proud to have you as an ally and contributor to the collective. And I can't wait to see what this AI for Good series continues to deliver for everybody involved. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for the latecomers too. Appreciate it. We'll be back in future weeks. Back and better than ever.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ty.
Thanks, Rainier. Thanks, Rish. Sweet. Chat soon.